Soccer Officer and Sporting Director, Chris Henderson. We'll get started with the press conference now.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you guys again. Recapping, looking back a year ago when we were sitting here with what we had in front of us, we decided to go for it with the roster. I think through the year we had 18 players come in, 15 players go out. I'm really happy that Phil is continuing with us because we've worked every day tirelessly on the DNA of the club, the culture of the club, putting the foundations in place for long-term success. I feel like we took some really good steps this year. Was it a complete success this season? Disappointing to lose first round of the playoffs. But I felt the progress was what we wanted. We are an ambitious club. The support from Jorge and Jose Mas and David Beckham, they have been together with us since day one. But we want to win here, and we want to compete for championships. And I think we're a club that it's about the people that we bring in, including players, staff. And everyone working together in the building. And what drives me and gets me up in the morning is that we set high goals and we want to accomplish and have a successful run as a team, but it's what we are becoming as a club to achieve those successes. And that's what really makes me proud is we're heading in the right direction.
We will get started with questions. If you have one, please raise your hand. We'll get started with Michelle, then Jose.
Well, I have multiple, but I'll start with one. Was there any consideration to go more than 1 year with Phil, or was it just a let's see what happens next year kind of situation? Because I know long-term, a lot of talk about long-term, but 1 year is not long-term.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the details of Phil's contract, but what I do want to talk about is what we have been able to do together and where we're going, and continuing to build the camaraderie, collaboration that we have between our players and staff. When I look back at my years in this league, I haven't had, in a really long time, the collaboration between front office and coaching staff that I've had at this club. The work together, just living the values of the club every single day. So I think if the support from ownership is always there, that if we are successful, then we will continue to build this club and the group will continue to stay together.
Go to Jose, then Franco.
Chris, my question is about DPs. Do you expect to have all 3 DPs by the start of preseason? And is Rodolfo Pizarro going to be part of this team for next year?
Yeah, so I'll start with the second question. We're in conversations with Pizarro and his agent and Monterrey, where he has been on loan and he has counted as a DP for us this year. So those conversations are ongoing. There could be a knock-on effect on DP. So we're trying to take it step by step, and then be able to make the next move after that. We are looking and working. The recruitment staff, our scouts, are looking at options all over the world. We get linked with big names. We want to bring in characters and personalities that fit what we're building, and will come in and fit the core players that we're continuing to go forward with. So the work is going on, and research is going on, and conversations are going on every day.
Next question, Franco.
Chris, piggybacking off of that, obviously South Florida, like you said, especially Miami and Inter Miami, is linked with big names all the time. It's a city that likes its star power. Obviously, we see all the people that come to the games on a regular basis, the celebrities. It's always a talking point. How important is it to have someone that obviously can be part of the project long term and they can be productive on the field, but how important is the big name in the whole equation? Is that something that you guys value really highly, or are you more stressing someone that's going to come in and perform for however many seasons that you signed them for?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's one that happens with teams all over our league. I think for us, it's about finding, as I said, the right character who's going to fit the values and where we want to go as a club, be able to impact the team in how we play. DPs should, if it's an attacking player, he should be able to add assists and goals and create chances. So I think those are things we look at, how they're going to fit within our team, how we predict the way we're going to play, and build our team around that player. And at the same time, we want a player who's going to connect with our community. Our fans are amazing, and I wanted to say at the beginning, we were really proud of our fitness this year. And I look at our fans coming out in 80, 90-degree weather for 90-plus minutes, backing our team. We have the best fans in the league. I mean, that is just impressive that they were behind us. And I think we want players who are going to come in and fit in and be part of this community and be players that the community's proud of.
We'll go to Andrea.
Hi, Chris. I wanted to ask you two quick ones. Can you talk a little bit about Leonardo Campana and you guys deciding to go for him and bringing him back as a young designated player, as it's rumored to be? And second, can you talk a little bit about Emerson, the likes of Emerson Rodriguez and Edison Ascona, who are coming back, but are young players that didn't get a lot of playing time this year? Are you looking to place them on other teams, on USL, or maybe on loan to other countries? Thank you.
Leo Campana had a great year for us. When a forward comes in his first year and gets double-digit goals, that's everything you ask for. And we really feel like he's going to take another step next year. We're happy to, take the option. We're working on the details with Wolves right now to finalize that. But yeah, Leo's been fantastic for us. He fits in different formations. He's hardworking. He's a young player. Who really plays above his age, what he adds to the team, and he has got great confidence. We are cheering for him to make the World Cup team for Ecuador. I think he could add a great amount up top for them in the World Cup. So fingers crossed for him. He looked fit and ready when he left here. And then the other players, the young players, Edison, Emerson, have been great prospects for us. Every day at training, they come out and they're trying to improve, trying to break into the lineup. Edison will go on a training stint with Robbie at Real Zaragoza, our partner club, and Emerson is excited to come back. He's one of those players who goes at players, one-on-one ability, taking players on, can change a game for you. So as these players come in and mature, we'll continue to put extra emphasis on them on and off the field.
We'll take some questions from the call. Felipe Cárdenas of The Athletic first, then Paul Gilmore from Sky Sports.
Hi, Chris. Good morning. Actually, good afternoon. Two questions for you. The first one, The Athletic reported last week that Inter Miami were increasingly confident in signing Lionel Messi eventually. Can you comment on that, on any talks between the club and Lionel Messi? And then, you're talking about the roster build. What are some key areas that you're focusing on for next season that you think are priorities in order to get this club just one step above?
Thanks, Felipe. Yeah, I mean, I knew Messi would come up. It's great to be connected with amazing players and our club connected with that. I don't want to comment on someone who's not on our roster and, or speculation and rumors, but obviously he's, one of the greatest players to ever play the game. As far as, the roster and what we're looking to improve for next year, I think continuing to look for players who are good in possession under pressure in the final third. We want to be a team that dictates the pace of the game. We have made really great strides this year with our performance department and heat strategies. And I think that's been really successful. And if you look at how many times we came back from losing positions to tie or win games, I think that goes into how we prepare, how we have made Drive Pink a fortress here. So definitely bringing players who can help us in possession. We can improve in attacking set pieces. That's going to be a focus for next year. I think we were one of the top teams in defending set pieces. But also on the road. How do we play on the road? How do we get results on the road? I think our results at home spoke for themselves, but we need to improve on the road if we want to be in a position to get a home playoff game at the end of the season.
Thank you.
We'll go to Paul Gilmore.
Thanks very much. Hi, Chris. Hope you're well. Chris, just to follow up on Messi, really, I read recently that one of your young goalkeepers got a tattoo of Messi's signature on his arm. I just wondered, I appreciate you don't want to go into details, but that's the kind of excitement that Messi generates amongst, never mind fans, but players, and the thought of being a potential teammate of Messi. But I just wondered if you had any thoughts on what that would mean for the club in terms of profile, and also how delicate a balance is it between signing players at the end of their careers, but also, combining that with players in their prime. Thank you.
Yeah, Paul, good question. I think Messi on any team in the world is going to change that team. So I do think, as I said, I don't want to speculate and talk about, him on our team, but he changes every league, every team that he plays for. But I can talk to how a player coming in can change our team, and as we look for difference makers. I think it comes down for me in MLS and having DPs come in. What is the character of the player? What's his motivation to come to the league? As you said, the balance between older players in this league and younger players, it comes down to that motivation, the fitness level of the player, why he's coming, and then being able to integrate him into what you're doing as a club and where you're going. If all of those pieces fit together, you've seen the successful DPs that have played in our league and won championships. And that's what we're looking for. We want to maximize that, any addition we have to our team, to help us be successful and achieve our goals.
We're going to go to
Thanks,
Michelle
Chris.
Kaufman.
Okay, I'll ask a two-part question now since I have the mic. I want to ask you about Pozuelo. What is the situation with him? He's out of contract, and Pozuelo and Pizarro, kind of similar sort of positions. Would it be one or the other? Would both of them potentially play? And then sort of what Jose had asked before, and all this talk about Messi and whatever. If you go into the season with 3 DP spots filled, then there is no DP spot for a Messi-type signing in the summer? Or do you think you're going to go into the season with 2 DPs? Right now you have Pizarro, right? That's the only DP spot you have filled. So what is the plan for DPs going into the start of the season? And Pozuelo. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll start with the DP spots. I think, there could very well be a young DP in Campana occupying a spot. Pozuelo came in the middle of the summer for us and added that spark we needed. Creativity, final pass, boosted Higuain. If you look at what you want from a DP, the last 16 games, Gonzalo Higuain fit that. He won games for us. And I think the combination of Pozuelo and Higuain was one of the best combos in the league. So we're really happy with what he brought in. We're having conversations with him and his agent as well. But there is a lot of things in the air with DP that we have to wait on that decision. Pizarro's another player who's occupied the DP spot for us. We're having conversations with him and with Monterrey, and to see if what the situation is for him. He has done well. We followed him at Monterrey. Was in and out with the Mexican national team at times. But all of these players that I mentioned are players who can change our team. And that's what we're looking for, players who can come in and make the difference and control the rhythm of the game, help us in possession, help us create goals, and be a balance of the team and lead the team. So those are the things the recruitment staff with Nikki, Sam, Mark, Megan, and all the coaching staff working together to find the best pieces.
What's the timetable? When would you like to have guys in? What month?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of that is in the air. Roster compliance. We need to have everything done by. So I think the question for the summer DP, that's an option too. Waiting to add a DP into the summer. Sometimes that window presents more options for us than the January window. But in MLS, we're fortunate we have until May where the primary window stays open. So, there's different ways of looking at it where you look and see how your team is doing in preseason, being able to make changes or additions, how you start the season, and then having that bump in the summer where you run into the playoffs and really add someone who can change your team, as we did with Pozuelo this summer.
We're going to go to Mauricio Venegas from Inter Miami, and then Ian Hest.
Hi, good afternoon, Chris. I wanted to ask you about the youth development and the progress that happened this year. Even from academy levels, there were lots of call-ups. Even the U15 team was crowned as national champions. And then talking about the first team, two Inter Miami CF2 products were called earned first team contracts, and then an academy player as Noah Allen also earned a contract with the first team. After such a highly successful 2022, what's next for the club in terms of youth development, as it's one of the pillars of the organization?
Hi, Maurizio. We're really proud of what we're building in the academy going through our second team. Craig Dalrymple's done a really good job setting the foundation for our academy. Winning the MLS Next at U15 was huge. National champions, Victor Pastora and his work there. Javi Morales is there. We have amazing coaches in our academy that are going to be moving around to different positions within our club to help us improve the quality of the players and the pathway for the players coming into the first team. Darren Powell and Federico Higuain lead our second team. We're really proud of some of the players that we've signed to the first team. You mentioned Noah Allen. Benha Kramashi is another player who's done well and was at the MLS Next All-Star game. But there's a lot of players coming through the system, and we want to make sure that we are developing those in the right way. Phil is really good at working with young players and having young players train with the first team every day. So I think that development is something ownership is really focused on. And you look at the talent in South Florida, and there's so many young players coming through, and we want to give an opportunity at Inter Miami.
We're going to go to Ian and finish it with Jose.
Thank you, Rafa. Hey, Chris. Good
Hey,
to see you. Next year will be the second year of the sanctions that you'll have to deal with. What did you learn from this year in dealing with them that could help you for next year? And also with St. Louis's expansion on the horizon, how do you prioritize who you want to protect throughout that process?
Yeah, we have one more year, and I think we take it like we did last year. This is what we have to work with, and make the most of it and move forward. And it doesn't do any good for us to dwell on having less money, but it's we want to build, and we want to be able to try and compete with what we have. And I think we took great steps last year, and we want to continue to move forward. The second question, Ian?
With St. Louis's expansion coming, and you have to prioritize certain players to protect.
Yeah, I mean, these are always difficult decisions for clubs. Who do you protect? They can take 5 players throughout the league. We hope we don't lose anyone because we love our core group. But they're tough decisions, and you have to figure out which 12 you're going to protect, and not just on the roster of who's playing, but also looking at contracts and where we're at. So we will finalize that in the coming days, and then we'll see how it plays out. There's conversations that are happening with St. Louis already with our club, so we'll know in a couple days how it plays out.
Last question, Jose.
Thank you. Chris, with the World Cup coming up, is there anybody from Inter Miami that will travel? How do you scout, if you do it at all, that tournament, looking for players? And how can that hold up to negotiations with players that you might already have on your list?
Yeah, good question. Everybody wants to go watch a World Cup. Sometimes when you're at the World Cup, it's not as easy to get around. You can see more with video scouting. We will have some of our scouts there that will be working. We have had conversations with different players. We will have our own players in the World Cup, we feel, with the possibility of DeAndre Yedlin and Campana, hopefully making their World Cup teams. As we focus on DP players and narrow down our lists, we'll definitely put time into how they play the World Cup. And the challenge with international soccer is how they will fit into our team and in Major League Soccer. So those interviews and conversations will have to happen as we get closer to signing players.
Thank you, Chris. That concludes Chris Henderson's press
Thanks.
conference. Thank you.
Maybe you thought you'd seen the last of me. Just a joke, Rafa. I rung Rafa at 8 o'clock this morning and told him that I had COVID and that I wasn't in today, and he really believed me.
And now we're joined by head coach Phil Neville. Fortunately.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll get started with opening remarks.
Yeah. Is there a game tomorrow?
Yeah.
No. I'm obviously. I'm really happy. I love working for this football club. I enjoy working for the people that I work with, for the people I work for, and I think it's not often in life that you get to find a location, find a job, find a city that you fall in love with, and that you have a job that you get up every single morning excited to go into, to work with great people. And luckily enough, I have that situation here at Inter Miami. I work with great people, I work for great people, and there's an incredible amount of trust between everybody. We're developing a real strong culture, and when I first joined this club, the word that Jorge kept using to me was family, and that's how it feels. It feels like we're a family, and I'm excited and look forward to next season and continuing the journey that me personally and this club is on, which I think is really exciting.
We will get started with questions. First question, Michelle Kaufman, then Franco Panizo.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Were there specific goals or specific things that you have to reach when you did these contract negotiations where the ownership said, you must do this, you must do this, you must do this in the next year to keep your job beyond next year?
Well, I think in any negotiation, particularly with the owners we got, they want to see improvements. You think back to the first season, to the second season, to the third season, there's been a gradual improvement every year, and I think I felt last year was more than just gradual. I think we took a big jump, and it wasn't just in the position that we finished in the league. That was for me, that was secondary. It was the way we played, the style of football we played, the players that were out on that field, the feeling in the club, and the culture that we feel as if we're building. And I think me and Chris, and backed by the ownership, took real big risk 12 months ago in terms of the roster turnaround, the roster rebuild, the reset of the whole organisation, and we did it. We did it with complete faith that we wanted to get the right people in the building, and we wanted to go through a certain process, and that process worked. And what we've got to do now is we've got to stick to the processes that have made us a little bit successful. We've not had success yet. I think what that is really important is that finishing sixth this season for me wasn't success, but what it was a continuation of where we want to get to. And we're a lot closer to where we want to get to than we were the year before. And next season, you think about, it's my third season at the football club. You normally think within that 3 seasons, you need to have success, you need to win. And I think in all the talks that we had, and like I say, they weren't long. They didn't need to be. There's a trust between ourselves and the ownership. They want to win, and we want to win, and so football is the type of business. It's ruthless that you have to produce, and I feel that like next year is the year when we've really got to produce.
We'll go to Franco, then Jose.
Phil, congrats.
Thanks, Franco.
On that progress that you mentioned in the press release that the team sent out, and that you just touched on in Michelle's question, what would be progress? What is your goal for next year to be successful? I think you mentioned top 4 at some point after the season. Is that what you guys are looking to achieve, to take that next step, or is it something more, especially when you see the likes of LAFC and Austin FC and even going back to Atlanta during their initial years, that they were able to win an MLS Cup pretty quickly. So what is success for Inter Miami in 2023?
Well, I think the end goal is to win, is to experience what LAFC and Philadelphia experienced at the weekend. Obviously winning the Supporters' Shield, winning MLS Cups, what Orlando did in the US Open Cup. We've got a new competition this year as well. So ultimately that's the goal for this football club, is to win. and to be stood on that podium with the trophy and the owners and the fireworks and the supporters and your family, that for me was watching the game on at the weekend was the biggest motivation. I wanted to get back to work straight after that game. It's like, that's where we want to be, and that's great motivation. But I suppose, I'm always, you've got to put the building blocks in place first. I feel as if we've got a nice strong foundation now. I'd say literally a minute after the game against NYC, my initial thoughts was, you've got to get home playoff. I think the history of this league and the history of the playoffs tells you that if you've got home advantage, you've got a real hell of a chance of winning. So I'd say in the short term, to help us to get to that point of being on that podium, we've got to get a home playoff, which means top four. So I'd say the short-term gain is to get into that top four to allow us then to attack home playoff games, because I think our form out here in our own stadium last year means that there's not many teams came here and won. Montreal, Houston, LAFC beat us here, but not many other teams beat us here. So I'd say that let's get to the home playoff. That's the first step. And there are many steps before that we have to go through. Recruitment now, bringing in the right players now, starting the season well, making sure our away form is better. All these little things add up to, and I always think is that, you focus on the process, the winning looks after itself. And that's what we have done for the last 2 years. We've focused on getting the processes right. And we firmly believe that will help us get to where we want to get to, and that is winning.
We're going to go to Jose, then Luis, then Andrea.
Phil, when it comes to DPs, can you take us through the process, the conversations between you and Chris, not about names, but about, do I want the players to be here by preseason? You have experienced players coming here in the middle of the season, and you have to go through a process with them. Is that ideal for your goals? What are those conversations like, and precisely having players here for preseason, how important is it for you as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, you want to hit the ground running. We didn't hit the ground running last year, and I think the easier bit this year is that we've not got 19, 20 players and 8 new staff to integrate. So we're gonna start pre-season with the nucleus of a starting 11 plus good depth players. We're going to start with a real strong roster. Now I think what's key now is that I feel as if it's easier what we did last year than what this year, because I think when you're looking for 20 players, there is a lot of players out there in the world that probably will fit into that 20 to 25 player roster that we were trying to build. This year we're focusing on maybe 4 or 5 with more quality. We'll go into our starting 11 that will make an impact, that will replace the goals that Gonzalo scored, for instance. So I feel as if our process has got to be even better. Our process has got to be even smarter. And we're now looking at a band of players that are probably less, that there are less of this band of players than there were last year when we were looking at 20 to 25 groups of players. So the one thing that we will not compromise on or not negotiate on is the type of player that we want in this football club, and that's character. That's someone that will fit into our values. That's someone that will work hard. That's someone that will fit into our family. You don't let anyone into your house if they're a bad person, and it's no different than us over at that training ground. I'm not going to let anyone in there, and neither is Chris, into our facility that we've worked so hard on creating something I think is really special that doesn't fit in with the values and what we want. And that's really hard work, the culture and the spirit that we want to build. And regardless of whether you're 40, 39 or 21, they've got to fit in with a certain profile of what we want over there. And I think what we saw last year and what we experienced last year is that, for instance, you look at Toronto as a prime example, who waited to the July to bring in their special players. It was too late. We're not going to make that mistake. We're going to make sure that, or we're not going to try and make that mistake. We're going to make sure that we have a roster that can compete from day one and through the season. We will add pieces just like we did last year. Pozuelo came in and Coco came in, and Pozuelo really give us that jump towards the playoffs, and that's what building a roster is all about. The calendar in the MLS is different to the calendar in some of the other leagues in the world, which means that sometimes you've got to be patient. But we've got to make sure that from day one we are competing. Day one we've got the roster that is there to compete, to challenge for the home playoff.
We'll go to Luis, then Andrea.
Phil, back here.
Hi.
Along those lines, how much have you learned as a coach in this league, style-wise and that type of stuff? You know, with players coming in, you're establishing a culture, but then you better get the right guy if you need them to fit into that culture. So how much of you as a manager, as a coach, have you learned in this MLS type football?
Well, I think in terms of the culture, that's not just in the MLS. That's in every working environment that you will experience in the world. If you don't have a good culture, you're not going to be successful. So I didn't come to the MLS just to learn about culture. What I've learned in the MLS, that it takes a certain type of player, it takes a certain type of person and character to be successful in the MLS. And you know, in my first season, I learned so much about the type of character that I wanted and didn't want. And sometimes you learn your biggest mistakes in the tough times. And we suffered in that first season, or in my first season, because we had a team of players that were really good individually but weren't great characters or didn't fit into a team. And what we did last year, we brought in some brilliant characters who made us into a really good team. Now we just need to take that, and put the extra layer on the cake now and bring more quality, more competition, and make sure that it'll help us to be successful. And the recruitment process, I always feel, is the most important part of the job. More important than the training you give them, the systems that you tell the team. If you don't get the right players on the bus with you, then you're not going to be successful. And I'd say in the MLS, that is probably exposed more than any other league in the world. Why? Because of the cap system. And you can't just discard players. You can't just cherry pick the players that you want. You've got to work within a budget, a cap frame, and you've just got to make sure that you pick the right ones. And that's why I think in this league in particular, the skill of recruitment is probably more difficult than any other league in the world.
We're going to go to Andrea, then Jeff Carlisle, then Paul Gilmore.
Hi, Phil. Congrats. I wanted to ask you, what were your conversations like with Chris to bring the guys that you bring back, that you're going to bring back this year, especially Leonardo Campana, a big player?
Yeah.
What have your conversations been with Leo? Are you in contact with him? He's trying to go to a World Cup with Ecuador. And second, I cannot pass this opportunity without asking you about the World Cup. I've seen you tweeting a lot about what Gareth Southgate is going to do with the call-up for England. Can you talk a little bit about that, and also about your other player who's going to the World Cup, DeAndre Yedlin?
Oh, that's a lot of questions, that.
All right, Ralph, I want to
Well, I think the re-signing of the players was a 2-minute conversation. We'd made our minds up very quickly because of the quality of their performances and the type of people that they are. So that was really, really easy. You know, last year we released a lot of players, and the one-to-one meetings, I've got to say, this year were a lot easier than they were last year. So in terms of stability, we wanted stability. So that was quite easy. In terms of Leo, spoke to him literally 5 minutes ago through message. He's training hard. He's fit. He was fit 10 days ago. He's gone away with the Ecuadorian national team. I believe that he should go to a World Cup. I think he's got the qualities to go to a World Cup. Yes, he's not played that much in probably the last month because of his injury. But I really think that boy's going to be a superstar. I really do. When I speak to people around the world, when they ask me about players I speak about Leo, because he's someone that's just got, you think about the goal against Orlando, it's a special goal by a special player. So we've got great high hopes for him. We hope he goes to the World Cup and enjoys it and comes back with more goals and more confidence and more belief, and that will only benefit us. And we feel the same about DeAndre. DeAndre texted me this morning about wishing me all the best, or wishing me congratulations on my contract, and saying, look, we need to be better next year. That's why we brought him in, because DeAndre is a winner. He's one of the leaders in the group. He never stands still. He realises, and I think he's found a place that he really enjoys playing, where he's well respected, where he's almost the captain of the team, but he also wants more. And this World Cup will be a great experience for DeAndre. I've wished him all the best, apart from against England, so it'll be great. He's someone I'm sure Greg will be looking to in the same role as what we do. His durability, he plays in every single game, he trains every single minute, he's got great quality, and he's a fantastic teammate in the locker room. The World Cup, I I was always a little bit sceptical about the World Cup being at this time of the year, and I thought, well, in life, I'm quite old school. I never wanted my kids to have mobiles. I wanted my son to always wear black football boots. But you've got to adapt in life. But I'm still struggling. When I see all these players getting injured, missing the World Cup. You think about the last game, and then 7 days later you're playing in a World Cup. That worries me a little bit. I just hope that we're going to go there, focus on football, that we're going to see the best players in the world, all fully fit, all playing for their countries, all putting on a great spectacle. Because, the World Cup is the pinnacle. The World Cup is the one thing when you was younger that used to get everybody in your household watching the television at night or during the day for the big games. And I want that to be the same now. And you hope that in this next 5 to 7 days that no other players get injured, that everybody meets up on time, that everybody gets to their country, gets selected, and they can put on a fantastic show.
We'll go to Jeff Carlisle, then Paul, then Michelle.
Thanks, Rafa. Hi, Phil.
Hi,
the MLS recently concluded its investigation into the allegations against Taxi Fontes, who was accused of dropping a racial slur against one of your players. What did you make of the league's findings and their conclusions?
Look, I think I trust my players, and I feel as if racism is such an important topic and subject that we can't hide away from, that we can't sweep under the table. I think we're past that now, and I feel as if obviously at the time there was accusations made, and I fully back my players, and I still to this day back my players that racism happened on that pitch. And I've got to say, being totally honest, and that's the type of guy I'm really disappointed. And I know that Ame is, Damien is, DeAndre is, Gregory is, and we're in talks at the moment to see if we can challenge the decision.
We're going to go to Paul, then Michelle.
Hi, Phil. Congratulations on the new deal. Just to pick you up on that last answer, is that very much still an ongoing situation? And what will you be saying to them going forward, I guess? Sorry, if it's okay, I'll come back with the second question after.
Well, is it ongoing? The only thing I can say that's going to be ongoing is that Inter Miami as a football club are going to be really strong on issues like this. We're not going to shy away from issues like this. We're not going to sweep things under the carpet on issues like this, because I think this is a societal problem. I think this is a problem throughout the whole world that you can't hide away from, and that we have a 0 tolerance level towards any kind of racism, and that will be ongoing at Inter Miami Football Club.
Thanks, Phil. And just to follow up again, just going back, you mentioned earlier about letting the right person into your house. I just wondered, will you be inviting Lionel Messi in through the door? How would you manage him?
Well, I think that's hypothetical, really. The best player in the world, I'm looking forward to seeing him play in the World Cup alongside other great players. We've actually let him into our house about 5-6 weeks ago when Argentina were here. I watched all the sessions. To see those great players on our pitch 1 and pitch 2 was something really special for the club. And I think when you talk about characters, when you talk about humility, when you talk about the right type of people, that Argentinian squad and staff were absolutely incredible towards our football club. We had a little scrimmage against them, the MLS2 side. You obviously saw the pictures of their players signing autographs, signing arms, signing legs, signing shoes. It was just the most incredible week, and I think we're really lucky here. We've had Barcelona here, we've had Argentina here, we've got the US women's national team here now, who some of the players are training out there. It's brilliant for this football club, and it shows the level of facility that we've got. And yeah, You know, I'm not going to speculate on any kind of transfer activity, but what I would say is that that is exactly the type of character that I saw in that week. Those Argentinian players were a credit to their country and to their profession.
Michelle, and then we'll finish with Franco.
I wanted to ask you about Rodolfo Pizarro and Pozuelo, the two guys with P's and Z's, whose
P's
names
and
end in
Z's.
O. Yes. What is the status? Obviously, Pizarro is officially a DP with this team.
Yeah.
Is he somebody that you see with this squad fitting in with all these characteristics that you're talking about? And Pozuelo obviously made a big impact. Is he somebody that you want to keep?
Yeah, Pozuelo made a brilliant impact, and not just on the field, off the field as well, in the one-to-ones that we had with him at the end of the year. He said it was one of the best locker rooms he's ever been in, so that was really positive, and we loved having him here. And he's someone that we're in talks with at this moment in time, just like we are with Rodolfo. He was obviously at Monterrey last year, and Chris and the owners are now obviously we're having talks with Rodolfo, with Pozuelo. And you know, the biggest thing, I think, going back to the question, what's the biggest thing I've learned here is this is, in terms of roster building, is a jigsaw. And there are many moving parts, and me, Chris and Nicky and the recruitment team, we sit for hours and hours looking at the board, looking at the spreadsheets, and it changes every 10 minutes. It changes with a move, it changes with a different player in a position. And what I would say is that nothing is guaranteed. Is what I've learned, and is that you just got to keep talking to players, talking to agents, manoeuvring every piece into place until you get the formula, the roster, the squad that you want, and it's forever moving forward.
Last question, Franco.
Phil, diving into the DPs, I think after the NYCFC game, and pardon if I'm misparaphrasing here, what you said something along those lines about going for top players that a lot of the clubs in the world are after. How do you guys balance the need for someone that's productive on the field? Obviously, you care about the wins on the field, but that can also draw butts in seats. It's obviously a big talking point. Remind me, you guys are linked with superstars all the time. So how do you guys go about that conversation or that balance? And if I could ask you a second one on a personal, human level, obviously you just went through it this year a little bit. You go into next year on a one-year deal. How do you plan to approach that to manage that personally? Obviously, every result will matter for you. Everything will be important in terms of if you have a longer stay here and job security and all that.
Yeah, well, I think in terms of the contract, it's just a piece of paper. You know, I prefer sort of like dealing with the people that I'm dealing with. You know, and I've been really fortunate in the clubs that I've worked for that the handshake and the trust of the owner and your boss that you're working for is far greater than a piece of paper or a length of term that they give you. And you know, I always do my homework on the people that I work for. I think that's really important. Something that I learned on my coaching courses. You know, learn about the people that you're working for, so to try and understand what they are and what they're about. And if you think about David and Jorge and Jose, I know David. He's had the same friends for 40 years, so there's a loyalty there in his character. You look at Jorge and Jose in their business. They have the same people working in their business for the last 30 years, so they're not the type of people that you can't trust. And there are many owners out there in football clubs that you can't trust, but I'm working for owners that you can trust, that a handshake, and for them to say we trust you is far greater than a piece of paper with a number on. And so I've worked, when I came here, and my relationship with David is not something that we can shy away from, is that there's one thing that we both agreed is that one, he trusts me, and two, I have to deliver. And at this moment in time, he's happy that I'm delivering. You know, but he's a winner. He wants his club to do well, and he knows that I can be trusted to do the job that he wants. And I always think about Jorge and Jose in terms of their success in their lives. They've done it a certain way. They've done it by creating a culture, by creating a staff of, I think it's 28 to 30,000 people that have probably been working for them for a long, long, long time. So they like loyalty, they like longevity, they like consistency in their lives. So that gives me and my staff great comfort. And like I say, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5-year contracts. If they want you out, they can just sack you. So for me, the contract probably, you know, in terms of the number that's on it, doesn't mean anything to me, because really the trust and the confidence and belief that I have in them and they have in me is far greater. And yes, the DP. Yeah, in terms of the DP, I think I've obviously watched. I started watching MLS when David was playing, and you've seen superstars and famous people that have had great careers come to this league, and when they've come to this league, some have been successful and some have failed. And I feel now is this league is getting younger and younger. This league is getting better and better in terms of the types of players that's needed to be successful, and we're not going to go away from that model. But this club is different. This club demands something different than other clubs in this league, and what we've said is that we're going to bring any player in the world. We're going to be open to bringing in, as long as they fit in with the character and culture of this football club. They've got to be a certain type. They've got to be able to come here and be hungry for success. They've got to be able to come here and handle what Gonzalo's just been through for the last 3 years. Because, you know, you give or take the last 2 or 3 months, you think about the previous 2.5 years for someone that's as good as him and that left on the brilliant way he left. For 2.5 years, he struggled. And he struggled because he probably wasn't prepared to come to this league and do the things that we saw in the last 3 or 4 months, which was to be part of a team and fight and battle and be part of a culture and deliver. And you know, I think what I have great confidence in is that, for instance, Chris has been at a club that's won in Seattle. He knows a formula for winning, and sometimes that's not always the biggest, the best, the most expensive. It's the people that'll help you win the most with the right character and quality that'll help you win. And you know, the thing that we want both, really. We want both. And we're going to have to look and find and go through the processes to find the perfect player to come in and really do what Gonzalo did and better that he did for the last 3 months. And you know, I firmly believe that this league, the DPs are the difference. Gareth Bale, probably not kicked a ball that much for LAFC, comes on, scores the equaliser, LAFC win. There's just something different about DPs than what the other players give you, and I think that's why we will do our processes, go through the right ways, and pick the right person to come in here and deliver for these supporters.
Would you like 3 DPs? I mean, how many DPs
7.
is this team gonna have? Are you expecting to have a full complement of 3 DPs next year?
I'm not sure. Are we? I think so.
And that concludes today's press conference. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.